I've probably read more fantasy books this year than I have any other year of my life. I don't know what it is about 2026. I guess I'm just having a magical time. So at this midpoint of the year, let me tell you about the 5 best fantasy books I've read this year so far. While the 5 books I'm going to discuss today are all fantasy, they're 5 very different fantasy books. We have a bloody, grimdarky revenge tale, a comedy-heavy book that generally made me chuckle, a murder mystery, the epic sequel to the best book I read last year, and a charming, thought-provoking, heartbreaking book that's probably the best book I've read this year, fantasy or otherwise. The best. What up, fiction fam? Welcome to Down to Read if you're new here, or thanks for coming back if you're a regular. I see you, and I appreciate your patronage. One thing, just before we jump into these 5 fantastic fantasy books that I'm a fan of, if you've been following this channel for a little bit, you'll know that I'm currently tackling 5 epic fantasy series at once. Link to that video here. None of those books will feature in this video, as I'm still journeying through those mystical lands. Now with that small bit of housekeeping out of the way, let's talk books, as we gradually levitate from great books to the most fantastic book I've read so far this year. Set your ones to stunning. Let's go. Book 5. Best Served Cold by Joe Abercrombie. Last year I read Abercrombie's The First Law trilogy, and really enjoyed that grimdark setting. Best Served Cold, which is set in the same world, has a much more granular focus. It's the tale of a woman, Monza Mercado, seeking revenge. But to get this revenge, she needs the help of a group of highly skilled, but also flawed, specialists. Think Kill Bill meets Suicide Squad.
What, we some kind of Suicide Squad?
Monza is a mercenary that fell out of favor with her employer, Grand Duke Orso, which sent her falling down the side of a mountain. Now, after being pulled back together, quite literally, Monza has her mind set on exacting revenge upon Orso and all those that were there that stood by and did nothing or participated in this betrayal. In true Abercrombie and grimdark fashion, a group of morally grey characters is formed by Monza to pick off Orso and his accomplices. The world is immersive, and if anything feels more gritty and dark than the First Law did, as we visit some familiar places and some new ones. The setting isn't the only familiar aspect of this book, as there are some returning characters from the First Law that play key roles, which is a big part of why I push back on this being referred to as a standalone novel. It is true, there's a complete standalone revenge story in this book that didn't change the world like some of the events in the First Law, but there are quite a few references to that trilogy which I would consider spoilers, and you'd be missing some key context for character development if you hadn't read the First Law. When comparing this to the First Law, I really like the more focused narrative of this book. I just didn't really like the characters quite as much. While I did empathize with Monza, she wasn't someone I was desperately rooting for, like you kinda want to be in a revenge story. Some of her merry band, such as the Poisoner duo, were a lot of fun. I just wasn't as invested as I wanted to be in the outcome of the story. Still, it was a lot of fun in a grimdarky type of way. I give Best Served Cold 4 out of 5 stars. You should for sure check it out if you like a good revenge story. Just maybe read the First Law trilogy first. Book 4. The Black-Tongued Thief by Christopher Buehlman. If you have read Buehlman's Between Two Fires and either loved it or hated it, I would say don't let your opinion of that book give you any preconceptions of what this book is like. For the record, I really like Between Two Fires, but this book is so different in tone, it's almost hard to tell they are written by the same author. While the world this book is set in is also bleak, Buehlman provides many moments of levity with his twisted sense of humor. There are some genuinely funny moments in this book. What is it all about though? Our titular black-tongued thief, Kinshna Shanak, owes the powerful Takers Guild more than he can afford. So to try and pay them back, he's joined a crude band of robbers that ambush unsuspecting victims as they journey through the dark forest. On one occasion, these thieves mess with the wrong knight. Enter Galva, handmaiden of the goddess of death. Kinch is lucky to get away from this encounter with his life. But as it so happens, the Takers Guild have a task. It requires him to gain the trust of Galva and join her on her epic quest, where they will encounter goblins, deep sea monsters, and other powerful adversaries. Some portions of this book dragged a bit for me, and I found myself not loving the protagonist. The real selling point of this book, aside from the twisted humor I mentioned earlier, is the world that Buehlman has built. It felt genuinely unique, which is really hard to do in fantasy these days. My enjoyment was quite similar to Best Served Cold, so it feels fair to give this one 4 stars. I look forward to venturing back to this world when the sequel is released later this year. Book 3. Strength of the Few by James Islington. The Will of the Many, the first book in the Hierarchy series, was the best book that I read last year.
Out here we got Viz telling us his backstory he ain't telling us.
So book 2 had a lot to live up to, and I think it's perhaps due to these lofty expectations that this one has received some fairly mixed reviews. It's hard to talk about a sequel without giving away too much about the first book, so let me instead focus on the general world and setting. There's a strict class system in place where people see their will, think mana or life force, to those further up the pyramid, which makes those towards the top exponentially stronger. Through the use of this will, the Cantanan Republic have been able to conquer all other nations on their continent, including the home nation of our protagonist, Viz Telemus. As you can imagine, Viz wasn't stoked about that and wants to take down the Cantanan Republic from within. The Senate of the Cantanan Republic has 3 main branches: military, governance, and religion. The events of Book 1 have frayed these already tenuous relations between the 3 branches. Islington probably could have kept people happy with that setup and continuing to tell the story of Viz taking down the Cantanan Republic. But this book is more ambitious than that. In Book 2, we go from one point of view to 3 POVs and explore new areas where different cultures and magic rules are introduced. I respect Islington's ambition, but as a result, this book doesn't flow as well as Book 1. It introduces a lot of new characters and plot points that don't kick into gear until the 3rd act. That 3rd act though, sheesh! I wasn't able to put it down. Am I really going to introduce quarter stars? You know what? Yes. It's my channel, and this rating system is heavily vibe based anyway. So 4¼ stars to the strength of the few. I'm very much looking forward to the next 2 planned books in this series. This book serves as a great launching point for the rest of the series. Book 2, Murder at Spindle Manor by Morgan Stang. Intriguing fantasy world? Check. Badass huntress protagonist? Check. Murder mystery? Check. Well, I haven't talked about too much on the channel yet. This is the book I'm telling all my family and friends they need to read. And shout out to Charlie from Charlie Read a Book that originally got me onto this one. I'll put Charlie's channel here and link his channel in the description. This is a gaslamp fantasy murder mystery. Gaslamp fantasy is actually a term I just recently learned. Means a fantasy book with a 19th century or early 20th century-esque setting. Huntress Isabeau Argawal has been tracking a beast, a doppelworm, that is able to wear the skin of its victims and mimic them perfectly. She tracks this beast to Spindle Manor, where there are 10 guests, 10 suspects, that could all be this beast in disguise. If that wasn't enough, a gunshot rings out, and a guest is found dead. Now Isabeau has to add a murder investigation to her worries. Who's the doppelworm? Who is the murderer? And who can our huntress trust?
It could literally be any one of us.
I hadn't read any fantasy murder mysteries before this one, but this is now a genre I will be seeking out. This book isn't going to change your life, but it is so much fun. So close to a perfect book for me, as I love an interesting fantasy world, and I love a whodunit. This married the two. There are just so many characters in what is quite a small book, so you don't get to connect with them and hence invest in the outcome as much as I wanted. Still, 4½ stars. Book 1, Piranesi by Susanna Clarke. So here it is, the best book I've read so far this year, Piranesi. Piranesi lives in the house, a limitless house with an infinite number of halls, statues, and vestibules. There are 3 floors in the house. The lower floor, which is often flooded as waves crash through it, bringing with them aquatic life and food sources for Piranesi. The upper floor is infrequently explored as it is the realm of the clouds. The middle floor, where Piranesi lives, is filled with statues and bird life. Piranesi has dedicated his life to investigating the house that he loves and has lived in for as long as he can remember. The beauty of the house is immeasurable, its kindness infinite. There's only one other person that dwells in the house, the other. Piranesi and the other have a good relationship, as when they do infrequently catch up, Piranesi helps the other with his quest to discover the great knowledge. That is, until Piranesi discovers that perhaps not is all as it seems, and maybe there's something beyond the house, the only world that he has ever known. This book is told through the journal entries of Piranesi, and it's through this brilliant narrative technique that Clarke has employed that we are able to intimately connect with Piranesi, learn about his motivations, and how he thinks. We spend so much of our time alone with Piranesi in the house, that we're able to immerse ourselves in this world and his life. The first portion of this book, before things begin to unravel, felt like a warm blanket, until some heartbreaking moments later in the book. I don't want to give too much away, but if you haven't already, do yourself a favor and pick up this 5 out of 5 star banger of a book. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a like and consider subscribing if you want to see some more content like this one. Oh, and let us know in the comments, what's the best fantasy book that you've read this year? Also, we'd be interested to hear your feedback on if you prefer these grouped book review videos or the individual book review videos that we've been putting up on the channel to date. Until next time though, immerse yourself in the fantasy world, take care of yourself, much love, we out. Hey Fiction Fam, check this out. Pretty cool, right?